Ladies and gentlemen, may I introduce to you today the very wonderful, super talented, slightly hard to understand, Mr. Dan Patlansky. And I hope I said your surname correctly.
You did. I've been called a lot worse, you know. Yeah.
Well, look, Dan is touring the UK any day now. So the tour starts off. We've got about 10 dates, I think, over here.
That's right.
Amazing blues guitar player from South Africa.
That's right.
Long way away. Same time zone, which I guess is handy.
Very handy.
But
straight up.
Yeah. But a long old flight. And we've not met before. It's a pleasure to meet you.
Lee, it's an absolute pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Some crazy good guitar playing, just the kind of guitar playing that I like too. And we're just going to chat about life, the universe, and everything. And and I hope you enjoy it. So tell us a little bit about how you got into playing guitar. You know, what's your background?
It's a great question. I mean, obviously, growing up in South Africa, it's not necessarily known for music, number one, and the blues definitely not. You know, it's but I was very fortunate. My parents had a fantastic album collection when I was growing up. Mm-hmm. You know, from everything from the blues, classic rock, jazz. You know, like I suppose the rootsy kind of music. So it was a fantastic upbringing, and most of the stuff I was listening to as a kid was guitar-driven music, if it was Hendrix or Pink Floyd or Stevie Ray Vaughan or whatever. So, I was always into music because through my parents' absolute passion and love for it. But when it came time to pick up an instrument, the guitar seemed to be the obvious choice because that's the music I'd been hearing.
For sure.
Yeah,
and how old were you roughly, you think, when you got your first guitar?
I got a nylon string acoustic. Because that was
what you got to do, the rite of passage.
Exactly, right? And when I was about 9 years old, and I kind of lost interest in the guitar playing thing very swiftly because I couldn't work out why this nylon string guitar didn't sound like Jimi Hendrix or I couldn't.
For sure.
I didn't understand that there was an electric guitar and there was an acoustic guitar and all that. So I lost interest and then kind of realized a little bit a couple of years later that you need an electric guitar. That's what the way forward is, and so I got that, and that's really when I started playing about 12. Seriously into it, and
Did you find the sort of? I've never really quite understood the sort of South African music scene. It seems to be an incredibly isolated place from a point of view of trying to get gear into it. I know whenever we've had inquiries from there, it's incredibly complicated sort of customs rules for what can and can't be shipped down there. But equally, I suppose, you've obviously got a real mix of cultures with regards to the kind of music that's played there. But I wouldn't. It always surprises me that there isn't more of a sort of a scene coming out of South Africa. There's plenty of people living down there. But I just wonder what was that like?
Well, I think that's a great question because there are people down there and there are music fans down there, and there is somewhat of a scene down there, even though it's probably maybe 10 years behind the UK and Europe. I think as far as infrastructure goes, venues and just the whole infrastructure of the thing. It's tough down there because I think the big difference between the UK, Europe, the States and South Africa is music is more, it's more part of your culture. Watching live music, for instance, like, what are you going to do this Friday night? Oh, I'm going to go see whoever. If it's a massive stadium band or a small little pub gig, going out and watching live music's part of your culture. And in South Africa, it's not necessarily part of our culture. So you really got to fight and convince people to come out to shows rather. So it's almost a secondary thing. I think almost sometimes I feel that people would rather go see a movie than go out to a live gig. Yeah. And I think that, and solely that, is really holding the scene back. And it kind of, in a way, makes it very, very tough to earn a living down there as a full-time musician. So you'll see a lot of the musicians down there, not everyone, but a lot of them have day jobs. And obviously if you've got a day job and you're a musician, you can't necessarily focus all your energy and your time on your craft, which is writing songs or playing the guitar or whatever it might be. And I think that's, that seems to be holding the whole scene back a little bit. Right. And talking about the customs thing, I mean, I ordered this Dualist from Jesse 6 months ago. Yeah. And our postal system is such up, to be honest with you, that this thing arrived in South Africa 1 week after Jesse shipped it. Yeah. And it took 6 months to arrive at my door because it's just, I think post arrives and it's just in this.
Well, I think that's what we got. So, I mean, I have to sort of almost apologise in advance to any South African, people who watch our YouTube channel, because we don't ship to South Africa entirely because the couriers just go, look, we can get it from Andertons to South Africa in like 48 hours.
But then you're on your own.
But then it's like, unless you've got all the right documents and super complicated stuff and permits and everything like that, it's just going to stay in the system forever. And 9 times out of 10, when it comes out the other side of the system, somebody goes, oh, and I can't find it now anyway. So like when the computer says, okay, deliver it, they just go, oh, actually, we've lost it. I'm really sorry.
Well, I mean,
we've given up.
I agree completely. I mean, I didn't expect this pedal to take 6 months. So I was convinced that someone pinched it out of the post office and they had a Dualist connected to their stereo system going, this sounds terrible. That's what I thought,
Maybe things will change in the future and hopefully they will. But so how did that then, you've obviously got your chops up to a crazy stellar level. So how, was that formal tuition or just loads and loads of practice and getting in bands, or how did that?
I mean, it was not much formal tuition. I mean, I did a little bit to kind of understand the theory behind why that works and why that doesn't, which is always helpful. It was just really the passion for the music, and it was almost like an escape for me as a teenager to get back from school. I've never been a social butterfly, if you will, a little bit of an introvert, which I think is a great thing for guitar playing, because you can kind of lock yourself in a room and really get this immense joy from sitting with a Pink Floyd album or a B.B. King record or whatever, just trying to learn their craft and trying to get that into your playing. And there was always, it was never a drag for me. It was never a, you know what I mean? It wasn't hard. It wasn't hard to practice because of the passion. It was always just a pleasure to do. So I've spent, most of my teenage years locked in a room, listening to, the music I listen to. And I think a big part is just really focusing on exactly what I wanted to do and not trying to be a Guthrie Govan, which is only one of those guys. You know what I mean? In the world, who can play everything well. Yeah.
So do you find now, maybe we're jumping forward a little bit, but as you're playing, is what you're playing, I'm just trying to, this is almost like a more personal question, because I didn't ever listen to theory. I never understood theory. So I've always had this slightly tentative playing style of, I kind of think this might be okay over the next bit, but I don't really know, and I know that holds me back. I need to sort of get into it, and then I go, okay, I'm okay now. Here, happy days. So did you do the theory to sort of unlock that mystery, or are you still kind of like, look, you know, I'm obviously a good guitar player, but I'm still just, you know, I don't really know what I'm doing. Yeah, winging it. You know, it's like,
sure.
what's the?
I did do the theory thing to kind of, because it always bothered me, like, why does this lick or whatever, or this group of notes work over that chord, and then all of a sudden it doesn't at a particular time. So that was the reason for getting into the theory. I didn't get, you know, you get people that get really deep into the theory, so deep that it almost affects their playing, where you can almost...
Overthinking.
Yeah, they think, oh, I'm going to go to this scale now, and I'm going to do this, and it just kind of sounds like someone going... never. You know, just playing the scales. So for me, it was just interesting to know, oh, right, that's why that group of notes works over that chord, or whatever, and that really helped, but I kind of... in a way drew the line there, because I still want it to be a feel-based thing, and I find when I play, that's always when I have a bad show.
Right.
Is when I've learnt a new kind of bebop lick or something, and I'm just relentlessly trying to get it into somewhere in the set, and the whole set is this random bebop lick everywhere until I figured out, that's where it works.
Right.
And then I'll leave it and only play it there. But so there is a lot of guessing still, I suppose.
Well, so back in your teens then, when was the first time that you just thought, I'm going to try and put a band together, or you know, how old were you then?
I was about 15 years old. There was a high school battle of the bands.
Cool.
And we put a little blues band together. We didn't have a bass player. We just had 2 guitar players and a drummer and a harmonica player. That was it. Just a 4-piece.
Cool.
No bass for some reason. Couldn't find a guy that was interested. A 15-year-old that was interested in playing blues bass guitar, and we didn't have a singer either. So it was. We ended up winning the thing. But that was really the first little band that I had. I can't even remember the name of the band. But that bug kind of. Bit early, just having a bunch of guys in the garage, you know, talking about gear and tones, and even though we didn't have the gear, we had, you know, fairly entry-level little tiny amplifiers, no pedals, but it was still, that was the kind of the introduction to the sickness of this, which is a
gear addiction syndrome.
Yes, yeah, sure,
absolutely.
Yeah.
And so were you singing in that band, or was it just an instrumental, or?
Just instrumental. I started singing for the sole reason is I couldn't find another teenager that was vaguely interested in singing blues. You know, this was, you know, the 90s. So if I was in more of maybe a grunge style band or something, I think I could have, you know, there's a whole pile of guys that would have been keen. But it was just out of necessity, really. And it's, you know, it was, wow, those first couple gigs must have been tough for the audience. Just this, you know, like choke cat kind of coming out of the microphone. Yeah, it was very interesting, you know. Yeah.
So, and at this stage then, so at what stage, you know, of your latter teens did you think, I think this is going to be my career now, my life? You know?
Well, it was always a dream, but you know, obviously, you know, I think it's a dream, but it's almost unlikely being a musician, especially in South Africa, because you think, okay, it's great, so I'm going to be a musician, but how do you earn money out of this? How do I, you know, pay rent and have a family one day and all this sort of thing? So it was kind of a thing where I put a proper band together, hit the road, and started touring South Africa, and just kind of closed my eyes and hope for the best. It was a passion thing, so you don't really mind, especially because I started so young. I think that was the key. I was still living at home. Yeah. You know, my parents are very, very supportive of me doing it, which is a big thing, because you can spend 2 years playing the exposure gigs, you know what I mean, with no problems, because you've got someone looking after you at home. And then, you know, by the time it was, you know, I moved out of home, and you know, I was already earning a living out of it, which was fortunate. I don't think it's just South Africa. I think it's anywhere in the world. It's obviously a tough industry to be in, and
especially with a band. You know, I mean, it's not just you that needs to. It's all very well a venue going, well, fine, we'll give you a couple of $100 to do the venue. It's just like, but it's not just me. It's like,
exactly.
What about the other three people in the band?
You know, so I mean, it's tough, but I mean, it just kind of happened that I, you know, like, all of a sudden I was like, oh, well, this is what I do for a living now. Fantastic, you know. It was never really a conscious thought. It was just always a hope and a dream. Yeah.
And how did you feel like you were going to sort of break through in this kind of, you know, the sort of the the young blues band, you know, trying to make a noise. It's such a not a competitive. Competitive is the wrong word. It's very crowded, kind of. You know, it's like who's going to be the next John Mayer, the next
whoever, yeah.
You know, you know, and it seems that there's a bucket load of guys, you know, and girls now as well, you know, trying to crack in that kind of market. So what's your, you know, were you conscious from day one that I've got to have an angle here to be my thing, or is it just, look, I'm going to do my best and I'm either going to, the cream will float to the top or it won't? I mean, what's the...
It was kind of the latter, I think. Yeah, it was all just like, I'm so passionate about the music I play, the blues, and the blues rock thing. I love doing it, and you know, I'm blessed at this point to be doing it for a living. You know, hopefully that won't end next week. You know, and you know, it took me many years to, when I say break into the UK and the European thing, just to get kind of, you know, foot in the door. And we tried for so long. I mean, obviously, as you say, it's quite a saturated market, and there's some great players and great bands out there. And what I think the turning point was, I did an album in 2014 called Dear Silence Thieves, and the producer I used back in South Africa is a guy called Theo Kraus, who's actually a rock producer in South Africa, and almost a commercial music producer. And all the albums I'd done in the past were all very much in that blues rock box. You know what I mean? You couldn't really separate them from any other blues rock album. So I came with my songs. He didn't try and make a pop album, and I didn't try and make a blues rock album. We just said, let's take the songs and see where the songs take us.
Right.
And obviously, naturally, they still went in a blues rock direction, because that's what they are. But because the producer had a very, very different way of doing things and a way of looking at arrangements and you know, production, all of a sudden we had this album at the end of the day that I was quite scared to release, because I thought, this sounds very, very different to every other blues rock album out there, and I didn't know if I liked it, because it was this new thing. And we released it, and that's what got the foot in the door in the UK and in Europe. And because the album kind of stood out a little bit, I think, and didn't, you know, sound like everything else, and that seemed to be, I suppose, the foot in the door. Accidentally, I suppose, yeah.
And have you always taken the view of just promoting yourself, or are you know, do you use like a traditional label to try and do some of the promotion, or?
A bit of both. I mean, I think, especially in the blues rock world, I mean, everyone's trying to do the Joe Bonamassa thing, where he's completely, you know, I mean, obviously he is the guy in blues rock, and he's done it all on his own, and just through his management. Which is remarkable. So I think we all kind of strive for, I mean, that success, obviously, but also that kind of platform. So we kind of, you know, a little bit of both. I mean, I've got a distribution deal with the label, you know, who just kind of get the music out there in UK and Europe and the rest of the world. And we've got a PR guy, a great PR guy here, Peter Noble in the UK, and, you know, an agent and promoter here. So it's kind of a bit of, it's not all in-house, but all the stuff we can't do on our own, we try and get the best we can.
And presumably using social media loads to try and get your name out there.
Tons. I mean, I think that's where it seems to be going, you know?
Let's get round to sort of, I'm interested in this kind of how you felt that the producer changed the vibe. Because from listening to you play, you know, it's, as you say, it's a very kind of field-based, loose, blues rock, you know, very, I wouldn't say, I'm just trying to think who it reminds me of. Reminds me of like a bit like a guy like Philip Sayce, like a sort of Hendrix, but on, like Hendrix on like 10 cans of Red Bull, kind of, you know, just like bit more, in terms of just, a little bit more flashy, maybe, if that's the right word. But how did that get? You know, what did he do? You know, is it just a question of perhaps saying, look, we're going to fill the band up, we're going to fill the songs out with more arrangements, more sort of keyboardy strings kind of arrangements, and just let the sort of the bluesy rock thing layered over the top of it? Or, you know, was it a question of saying to you, look, can you play that part differently, or just pull it back, give it more of a vocal vibe? I mean, what was the...
the process was, I mean, I must be honest, in that first album I did, I mean, I fought constantly with the producer, because it was just fear. It was like unknown territory. It was like, oh, that's not how it's done in the blues rock world, you know, we solo for 12 minutes, whatever the case is. And he's like, no, well, let's try and not solo for 12 minutes. Let's try and do a really kind of meaningful, thought out solo for, you know, a minute rather, and then get back to the song. So it's more of a gift to the listener. So that was the first thing that we did. But it came to the point is obviously everything I write comes from the blues. It's based in the blues. But it was about not trying to write a blues rock song, and that's what I learned so much from him, was saying, you know, it's always going to be blues rock because that's who you are. Let's just write a song, and not, because I think when you try and write a blues rock song, you often close doors. You say the song could go in that direction, but that's not where I want to go. I mean, let's try and, so what we did was with every song, we took it in every single direction we possibly could, even if it was hideous, you know, like, and completely wrong, but we always got something useful from going in that direction. You know, if we turned this blues song into a disco song, it would be like, oh, that's definitely not what I'm going for. But because we did that, this little idea came out, and let's bring that back to where we had it, and it was a great idea. So it was really, I think, from the songs and the structuring and the writing of the songs was the big thing that he had. You know, instead of going, because in the past I was going, cool, man, what kind of guitar sounds I want on the album? And still, that's a big thing. You know what I mean? Oh, am I going to use this pedal? I'm going to use that amp, or whatever the case is. And now it's just like, yeah, we're going to get there, but let's get the songs right first, and then we can worry about, you know, what speaker combination we're going to use in the studio and all that. And that's for me, being a gear guy and a tone guy, it was very, very difficult. You know,
I mean, that sounds to me like exactly the kind of producer that you want to be. You know, that's when it feels to me where they really earn their corn. You know, they add that. You know, rather than just, it's just a polished version of the track that you had in mind. It's like somebody goes, hang on a second,
this can be better.
Yeah, or just different. You know, so that's very cool. I mean, do you want to do some? I like, you know, so when we were playing, I was just playing some rhythm stuff, and you were playing some licks. But play some of the
just tune if you don't mind.
Absolutely, tuning is good.
And tuning is always a good
with
thing,
your extremely affordable little Fender clip-on tuner. Nothing but the best.
There we go.
But I love, you know, some of those chord inversions that we were playing before before the camera started rolling out. I love all that kind of stuff about.
Oh, it's like pretty chord type of things,
just,
like
you know,
the. Oopsie, it's. So out of tune again.
Yeah. And when you're writing, are you putting chords together, or have you got a melody in your head that you're thinking about, or is it lick based? I mean, what's your?
If it's a kind of a riff based song, it will, you know, the riff will be kind of the first thing. If it's you know, that's kind of more of like the riff based or the. But then when it comes to, you know, not riff-based stuff, I try my best, because my immediate thing is, if I've got a little chord progression, is to kind of fluff the chord, not bloom the chords out, if you know what I mean, with different inversions and tension, you know. So, but the way I learned to write with working with this producer was to try and, that'll come later, and rather concentrate on the chord changes, keep them really simple to... simple majors or minors, get the melody kind of happening over the top, and then once that's kind of settled and you can listen to it with just the basic chords, then you can kind of, you know, get a little bit more you know, creative with the voicings and all that type of thing. And I must say, it shifts the priority to the song, and it's still to this day a super tough thing for me. Is I always want to kind of Hendrix it, like you know, kind of do that Hendrix rhythm thing.
For sure.
And obviously, if you do that to every song you do, it's gonna be like I don't know. Like
so he's like, stop. Just play the three chords.
Just play the chords.
Well, and that presumably must force you to put a lot more focus on the vocal side of it, because it's which I still, sort of, even though I'm, I love guitar and I love guitar music, I'm still, I still enjoy listening fundamentally to a song where the guitar adds. I think you said something before. I don't like it where the guitar becomes utterly dominant within the song and it's all about the solo, or it's all about.
Sure.
I like it where it's fundamentally the song is good, the vocal is good, the lyrics are meaningful or whatever. And then, like you say, when the solo does come in,
it's a little gift.
It's just like, oh, it's so good. So all my favorite guitar solos are all the 30-second long, where it's just like you're loving the song anyway, and then someone goes, "Here's the cherry on the top."
Boom, take that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sure.
So that's super cool. Have you got when you first started singing and playing guitar at the same time? What did you find the biggest challenge was? Behind that.
The right hand, and still to this day, the right hand is my nemesis. If I'm playing badly at a show, it's because my right hand is like veins are bursting out, and you're kind of like digging in too much, and there's no like flow, and the tone's bleak because you're killing the note. Same when I started singing, was trying to get a constant rhythm, to kind of separate the brain to the right hand. And the way I learned to do it was a really simple kind of like blues kind of like a Steve Ray Vaughan. Just that constant.
You can, and then you sing over that.
Yeah, it's kind of like you've learnt that shuffle part or whatever so well that kind of does it automatically. But I must say, when you first start doing it, it seems to be like you feel like you'll never get it right. It's just it's whatever the vocal phrase does, your right hand tends to do. Following it rhythmically, which takes a while to stop.
And when you're doing those sort of embellishments in between the chords as well, are you singing over? Or are you sort of going like, I'll just do the embellishments when I start? Well, almost scatting. You're not scatting with yourself, but almost like comping with yourself.
Yeah, I mean, obviously a big thing in the blues is that call and answer thing. Mm-hmm. So if you going, and now look at me, baby, what have you done to me? Where you'll do a little call and. That's a great exercise because you're kind of doing the chord and answer thing. But I know what you're saying is when you're doing a chord kind of pattern, then I'll try and stay away from all that kind of playing off the chord and try and concentrate a little bit more on the melody. I think not because I have to, it's because I probably can't do all that embellishment with singing at the same time.
Because when I see guitar players who can do that,
wow, I know.
I'm just like, oh man, you've totally managed to divide your brain into two bits, haven't you? Like one bit's doing the singing, one bit's doing the guitar, and they're like a dinosaur where they've got a brain in their head and a brain in their arse, and it's impossible to physically assign the two bits to the... Not that dinosaurs ever wrote any good music, but... So, well look, it's super cool. So... we'll get onto gear in a minute, but your journey, obviously a young guy, and so
relatively, I suppose, yeah.
But so your journey now, you're touring to promote the new album. Or?
Yeah, we toured earlier in this year, like as the initial release of it. It's an album called Perfection Kills, but this is kind of the continuation tour of it. Starting really soon here in the UK, and it's the last dates for the year. But this tour is a little bit different. I mean, we're doing obviously a lot of stuff off the new album, but we're doing a lot of back catalogue stuff too, which I'm absolutely loving doing because it's very tough going, this is the new album and that's all we're playing for this tour, because there's stuff that I really enjoy playing, that I wrote many years ago. So I think the live set this time is far more balanced. It's got a bit of the more traditional side of me, which was the kind of more old school traditional blues thing, and then it's got a lot of the the more song blues rock kind of song based kind of stuff too. Cool. So I think it's going to be a very fun tour. Yeah.
Well, we'll put some links underneath where you can find out where the nearest gigs to you are. Are you likely to do the States much or?
Wow, the States is a scary place, man.
Yeah.
It's, and the reason I say that is because, you know, it's so big. I think you probably tour the States for 3 years and not repeat any venue or any town almost. So I would love to get back to the States at some point. I lived in New Orleans for many years back in 2005 or something like that. I'd love to get back there, but at the moment we don't want to stretch ourselves too thin, so we're trying to, you know, get a little bit more established here in the UK and in Europe. And once this kind of is looking after itself, then we're definitely going to look at the stateside thing. Yeah.
Oh, well, you know, super good luck with all that sort of stuff, and please do go and check out some of Dan's music. Let's get gear nerdy though, as we are a gear show.
Yeah.
I think we're just going to start with the guitar.
Right.
Is this number one? Is this is the one you take everywhere? Do the predominant amount of your playing on? Or?
No. I mean, for the next couple months it will be, because my number one guitar was a 62 Strat, which I still have. But that is really falling apart. Like, I mean, just before this tour, I was going to bring it on this tour, but I don't know what you call these strap buttons.
Yeah,
they started getting really, really loose. You know, the wood's kind of rotting away. It's almost, the Strat almost looks like one of those Steve Vai guitars, because it's not just the paint that's worn there. It's like a big kind of divot in the wood.
Which is that? Did you do that?
Yeah. I mean,
what's your playing style then?
Well, I mean, it's bad aim probably.
Well, it's just,
but it's that probably that whole
you're hitting
shuffle.
the guitar this high up, are you, to sort of?
Well, I mean, yeah, I mean, so. So it's maybe a little bit of that. On the other guitar, which is that Sunburst Strat, I mean, the paint's really old, so it just kind of like flakes off, if you kind of hit it in the wrong place. So it's got a divot there. So I decided to put this guitar together, which is I call the Partscaster, which is a really cool guitar. It's a refinished 64 neck. Someone put the early 60s decal on it, which, as I say, put it right into my price bracket, and it's a great playing neck. It's got the 62 a saddle and bridge piece. It's got a pick guard from, I don't know how old it is, but it's an older one. It's got slider pickups, which are pickups from Australia.
Oh, I don't know
that are just fantastic replacement vintage pickups, and that's pretty much it. And
the body you were saying was a...
Sorry, yeah.
It's a 90s...
It's an early 90s 57 reissue body. It's one of the first Strats I ever bought, and this body has literally been sitting around just in my practice room for the past 20 years doing nothing. I mean, I played this predominantly when I was a kid and did all my early touring, and when I got the 60s guitar, that kind of took over.
Sounds great.
It's a great guitar, and I've got as I mentioned, a Masterbuilt, Jason Smith Masterbuilt on its way.
Eventually.
And I think it's going to be
3
worth
years
the wait.
to build, 3 years in South African customs.
Yeah,
and
wow,
then,
so it could turn into 5 or 7, if I get it, So I put this Partscaster together for this tour, and probably until the Masterbuilt is done and arrives. And man, I'm loving it. It's a great
What did you
guitar.
spec on the Masterbuilt?
I spec'd exactly my 62 Strat.
Right.
Just a different color. This is like this vintage white has always been my favorite color, especially the real kind of yellowy vintage white. So I've spec'd this kind of yellowy vintage white, but everything to the weight, because I mean, when you get that Masterbuilt order form, I mean, I thought I knew a thing or two about guitars. Wow, I had to Google a lot of the things on that list to say, I don't even know what that is.
Oh, when they start talking about what cut of wood do you want it, quarter sawn or whatever, it's flat
sawn,
and you're totally right. I mean, it's the Masterbuilt thing is we don't do a lot of Masterbuilt stuff, but I mean, maybe 3 or 4 guitars a year, something like that. But it's crazy detail, it's crazy waiting times. And it's crazy expensive as well.
It's crazy, man.
But it is, I guess it's the creme de la creme.
Yeah, I mean, you can obviously one guy builds a guitar, and I mean, you can literally, I think, have a coffee machine like built into the side of the guitar if you want. It's like, I've seen crazy things like with cowhide scratch plates and all. I mean, you can really have anything. I mean, it's kind of silly because all I'm going for is actually just a very standard kind of Strat, but I wanted a very particular neck shape that I got very used to, and the only way I could do that was go the Masterbuilt
Yeah, I think
route.
neck profiles and weights as well. I think where you can get on the team built stuff, you just can't. You have to take a stock
kind of 60s neck or 62
profile,
or whatever,
and you can spec. I think you can spec. You can pay a surcharge on the team built stuff for just. Please, can you pick me out a lighter body?
Right.
But you can't sort of go. Please, can you make sure the guitar ends up weighing 6.2 pounds or whatever, which is to a certain extent you can kind of do on Masterbuilt.
You can, yeah. So it was just the experience of ordering it was worth it. I mean, it was incredible.
Well, and are all your guitars Strats, or are you
Yeah, I to be honest, I only own Strats.
Really?
I don't have that many. I've got, I think, 3 Strats and 2 acoustic guitars, and that's all I have. But I've always been the type of guy that when I'm happy with an instrument, I kind of really like to get into the instrument and learn the instrument in a far deeper sense. Like if you took like great bass, like Jacob Pastorius, right? Like, I mean, he didn't have lots of basses. He had those he had his bass, but he knew that the instrument like back to front, that had a little flaw there or a little thing there, and if you played it like this, it sounded like that, and I love that.
That's cool. And so you don't find necessarily that perhaps a completely different sounding or feeling instrument might sort of you like get a writer's block thing, and you think, do you know what? All I need to do to unblock this is just to go and get something that feels and sounds totally different, and then it's like, okay, fine. Unblocked, brain goes off in another. So
I agree, because certain guitars suggest almost things to play. You know what I mean? I haven't, and it's not that I don't love other guitars. I mean, wow, I love guitars. It's just I'm so in love with the way a Strat sounds, and all my heroes really. Like David Gilmour was like a massive hero of mine, and I mean everyone's, I suppose.
For sure.
Stevie Ray and all these guys. I mean, I've just always loved the way a Strat sounds and what you can do on a Strat, and it's just been something so special for me. And I mean, it's not to say that one day I might be on a Gretsch or whatever's going. I love those. It's just I've really found it quite difficult to kind of move away from the Strat.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So, should we do pedals or amps? I think I'm going to do the amp first, because that is a stunning looking Dumble-esque thing, but with great kind of curtain material on the front, and like from a stately home or something. It's like the wallpaper, isn't it, from a stately home? And I'm only familiar with that since, I think Pete told me, and he's probably only familiar with it since we booked you to come on here. And
Sure.
Not, and again, totally not associated with a country that you would associate guitar amps with. So tell us a little bit about the Honeybee.
Right, so the Honeybee's from Hungary, Budapest. The guy that makes him is a guy called Mark, and Mark is he's ridiculously young, stupid young. I think he's like 25, possibly younger. But what I loved about him, he tagged me once in a post saying, "Hey, check out my amps." And obviously, I've tried a lot of amps and all that. And what I'm always wanted out of amp is I don't want a versatile amp. Because I'm not a session guitar player. I don't play loads of different styles of music. I play what I play, and I think we all have that tone in our head that we want. And I kind of stumbled on a video of him playing it, and he's a really good guitar player. And I absolutely loved the sound. It was exactly what I wanted. It was a Fender style 6L6 kind of big American clean sound. But it had this top end that I love, this kind of glassy top end, which I've always been after. And I loved it, but then I thought to myself, because I bought so much gear online because the player's been great playing it, and it's sometimes very hard to distinguish, am I listening to the great player or am I listening to the great tone and the great pedal? And I thought, he's a really good player, this guy. Is this amp gonna deliver? And I heard a couple other videos of not so great players or and different players playing it, and they all sounded great. So I kind of just took a shot in the dark, and I ordered one to be sent to the UK. It was actually sent to you guys.
Oh, okay, cool.
This is my first. I played on the amp before, but this is the first time I'm playing on my amp, which is very cool.
See? I didn't know.
So it was sent directly to you guys, and I played it for the very first time a week ago. We played in Budapest, and it's just for what I want. It is It's got that very much that SRV type of thing.
It's super high headroom.
Super high headroom. It's got a solid state rectifier,
right,
which gives you all that kind of, you know what I mean, that clean spank.
Yeah.
But it and the way it overdrives naturally is what I was looking for. I mean, it's just, it never kind of farts out. It never. It just adds this glorious kind of. I'm just really in love with it, man. And on a big stage when you can really open it up, it's what I've been looking for years.
It's fascinating for me. I mean, I've been working in, you know, selling guitars and amps and stuff for nearly 30 years now, and definitely, I kind of remember back in, you know, when I first started. I guess there weren't a lot of amps around, but it was pretty common that people would buy Twins or 100-watt Marshalls,
sure,
or, you know. And then it just seemed to all the fashion or whatever it was that by necessity, everyone was like, no, you just don't use an amp like that, because, you know, you're never ever going to turn it up loud enough to get the sort of the tone. And so amps got smaller and smaller, and before you know it, like the most popular thing is a 5-watt valve amp.
Or your 1-watt amp to that,
sure, all that kind of stuff. So you're playing away, and then I would say, I don't know. I think, to be honest with you, I think someone like John Mayer, probably around about the sort of Continuum time, and I don't know that anybody really knew what was going on, but all of a sudden this guitar sound started to become more popular again, and you realise that it's not volume that the 100-watt thing is doing; it's just the bloom and the openness and the headroom involved, and they're making a real kind of revival again. So it's, you know, people, and it's not, you know, people have to remember, you know, buying a 100-watt amplifier is not because you're going to go and play a stadium in front of, like a theatre.
It's not about that at all.
It's absolutely not about that at all. It's just a type of tone.
Yeah, and how it blooms. The bloom is the best word. And every amplifier I've played, everything has got its unique way of blooming. And I suppose it all just depends on what you want out of an amp. I mean, this is obviously not a high gain amp at all. This has got one channel. It stays pretty clean, but at the same time, that's what I was trying to get, is an amp that's got tons of clean headroom, but breaks up at the same time. Which is a kind of weird thing, you know?
And I remember watching a Joe Bonamassa video about how he sets all his amps up, and every amp he has is maximum volume, and then the guitar is rolled back a little bit.
Sure.
And he talks about bloom. It's you get this very, bloom is such a great word.
It is,
because you don't get that. You know, traditionally, if the amp is lower volume and the guitar is turned up full, you get that instant compression and thing when you hit the front end of the amplifier, and it creates a type of tone.
Yes.
But it's not the bloom, is it? It's like, you know, where you've got tons of headroom and you're not maybe sending quite so much out the guitar. It hits the sound and just happens in a different way. I'm not even going to try and get scientific.
Well, I mean, it's the one reason, like, my biggest tonal change, I think, especially in a live stage, is the treble bleed kind of I've got in there. And it's a, you know, it's a particular, whatever you call the measurement.
What, capacitance?
Yeah, capacitance.
Yeah.
And I think it's like a 470, a 470 picofarad. And I just love the way it's...
Or impedance? Are we talking impedance or capacitance? I don't even know now, but whatever.
Who knows? But I mean, I can go from the amp is naturally kind of... And I can back it off, and all of a sudden I get this almost more of a classic twangy, kind of clean, very super clean Strat sound. Which is that lovely kind of thing. So I'm getting the best of both worlds, and depending on how far I bring the volume back, I can get really kind of glassy and... That's the clean sound, I suppose. You know what I mean?
Well, I mean, so I don't know anything really about Honeybee amps, whether he makes lots of different versions or if that's the only
I think he only makes two. He makes this 40-watt head, and I think he does a John Mayer style, which is, you've got far more switches, bits and bobs on it. And my thing is just the simpler the better, because I will spend an entire sound check ruining my sound by just go, a little bit more of that, a little bit less of that, and then
So, well, that, I mean, it's great, and it looks cool. It's like covered in suede, and as I said, presumably there's lots of choices about how you want it coloured and all that
whatever you
want. It looks super cool. And Pete told me how much they were, and I don't know what the deal with Honeybee is, whether or not you might be able to buy one through Andertons or whether you go direct to Honeybee or whatever. But it sounds cool. You know, if you're interested, comment and I'll find out. You're running it through an attenuator, which kind of surprised me a bit, because I didn't. You know, being a clean kind of amp with lots of headroom, it sort of felt like it sounded pretty good. We had it running without the attenuator before you arrived,
right? And
it still sounded great. Did you try many different attenuators before you went, oh, that's the one?
I did. I tried some attenuators, but I found the normal top end roll off.
Yeah.
Like, the more you attenuate it.
Yeah.
I mean, I bought one because, you know, coming out of the UK, we're playing far smaller venues and clubs that I play back home.
Mm-hmm.
So back home, I can always just turn the cab in a different direction and blast it. Here, all of a sudden, you know, it's, you know, a stage this size, and I normally used to turn my cab backwards, but then you're hitting a concrete wall, and it's flying back at you. So I thought, damn, I need to do something about this. And, you know, I've played Dr. Z amps for many, many years, and I absolutely love the Dr. Z stuff too. So I thought I'd try the air brake, and I bought it, and I must say there's hardly any top-end attenuation, which was fantastic. And, you know, for home, I live in a place where I've got neighbors really close by, and I'm on the bedroom setting all the time at home, and instead of practicing with this very sterile, clean sound because the amp's on half, I can really wind the amp up now, and
it's so. I mean, I would say that the bulk of attenuators that I've used, you lose 25% of the magic of the tone somehow just disappears.
Without a doubt.
But this is sounding good. The ones that I know that Andertons sells that seem to work really well is that there's a great American brand called Tone King, and they do a thing called the Iron Man, which sounds great. And they do two versions of it, like one if you've got 100-watt amplifier, and then they do one if you've got a 30-watt amplifier. It's just got a smaller transformer in it, and I guess a little bit cheaper. But the one that we tried at the back end of last year was just like, oh my god! And it's got so much other stuff as well, which I'll show you when we finish filming. But the UAD aux.
Is that big unit?
It's that
that one there,
brown and grey. So it's got a killer reactive load attenuator in there, but it's also got the speaker emulated DI out as well. So if you're, you know, if you want to make gigging super easy and you want the sound man to love you, it's just like aux out. So your sound is on stage, it's all for you, and then you just give the sound man an XLR lead and go, here you go.
There you go.
And
do what you must.
So authentic, it's frighteningly good. But that's amazing. But yeah, be careful with attenuators. I have to be honest with you, the bulk of the cheap ones that I've tried, you know, and I know you can buy attenuators for, you know, a couple of £100. In fact, even £99 if you go on just buy some unknown Chinese one or whatever. But you have this great sounding amplifier, you put it through the attenuator, and yes, it's quieter, but
yeah, your tone's gone.
Cack afterwards, basically.
No, I know. That was my main thing. So, and also for me, I don't, you know, it's always great to be loud and all that stuff, but I can't stand being so loud that I can't hear the drums or I kind of want the volume always to be in relation to the rest of the instruments on stage, you know. So that's a big reason for the attenuator.
I mean,
also.
In here we're running it through a 212 cream back loaded open back cab. Do you know what you're going to use when you're out? Sort of touring.
Well, I normally do the EV thing.
Wow.
The reissues are called the EV Classics or something like that, and I like those.
Everything super glassy and bright.
Yeah,
and
actually,
clean.
I find that those EVs quite a dark speaker. Actually, I find them. You know, I don't like speaker distortion really. I mean, I know for particular things people like that little bit of speaker.
No, there's none on those, is there? And
no.
I say there's none. If you do get the speakers to distort on those, I remember them being very unpleasant actually to listen to. But they've got so much
I mean, those
headroom.
I think they're 200-watt drivers.
You never ever. I mean, if you're distorting one of those, then
you're doing something wrong.
Yeah, you really are playing way too loud.
Way too loud. What I find is it's because the speaker's always idling. It's, you know, it doesn't matter what you're throwing at it. This is a 40-watt head. My Dr. Z's are 50-watt heads.
All that is?
It's 40 watts. Yeah. You know, you you can do whatever you want on the amp, and the speakers are still kind of idling. And I find it takes a lot of the harshness out, and I find EVs to be quite dark because of that. You know, you can add a little bit more. I find if I'm on a kind of a regular speaker, I've got to take the top end down a little bit more because it gets a little bit more, you know, kind of spiky. But the EVs, I just find you can have all the top ends there, but it's never that ice.
Is it not unbelievable heavy, aren't they?
It's ridiculous. You regret when you're walking from the van into the venue, like, this is the worst idea I've ever had in my life. But when you plug it in, you're like, no, it's good. It's good.
But that again, going back to when I first started selling stuff, you know, we had very occasionally some people would do those mods to a Fender Twin, so they put a pair of EVs or JBLs or something in a Fender Twin, and the thing's heavy as it is, and then you put, and it's like
a small moon,
It's like, anyway, you've really thrown me by saying that was 40 watts. I mean, the size of it made me think it would just be much louder.
But sure.
It's just got that
100-watt kind of headroom. Exactly. You know,
weird.
It's gorgeous. You know,
magic. Let's go over to the pedal board.
Yes.
We should probably do a sweep over or something so people can see what we're talking about.
Yes.
I was surprised. The first thing I'll just get out of the way. If I've got an amplifier with a spring reverb tray in it, valve driven, blah 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 blah. I love those reverbs, but you've opted to just go with a pedal reverb.
Well, I mean, the reason is I used those 59 Bassman reissues for years, the Fender ones, and obviously those are verbless, if that's even a word. So I kind of got used to the digital kind of reverb. But what I kind of like to do now is use like a spot of both. You know, I just find sometimes with the digital reverb, if you've just got the digital, it sounds great when you're playing on your own. You get these. It's like, oh, lovely, nice spring sound. And as soon as you put a bass player, and a drummer, and a keyboard player, the reverb, like the digital reverb, just disappears completely. And you're like, am I dry? Am I what? Where a spring reverb, because it's a real organic thing, you tend to hear better. So I kind of like to keep, like, I mean, if I switch it off, there's.
Oh yeah.
There is that kind of.
So I didn't see. I just assumed it was turned all the way down. So we're going double reverb here. Reverb on reverb.
Reverb, but tiny bits. I mean, so.
So you get the shimmer maybe of the digital
so that's got
reverb.
like a real kind of bright tank sound, like, you know. And I've really enjoyed this Tech 21 one. It's really simple to use, and you can get a relatively close to a spring reverb sound, and you can get quite atmospheric if you, not that I've ever had the use for it, but you can get really
studio reverby kind of.
Like more plates or hall type. So you can go to kind of those levels of reverb. So I mean, it's just nice to have. If I want a big sound, I can go for it.
Now I noticed you've left this clean drive pedal on quite a lot. So let's skip to that one.
Yes.
And that's another Honeybee. You got a hive, but you haven't got a pedal board. You've got a hive, haven't you? There's so many Honeybee things on here. But let's talk about the clean drive.
The clean drive for me is it's almost perfectly paired to the head. It really is such a transparent pedal, and it's a pedal. It's the only pedal I've ever played or owned that I can leave it on, where it doesn't sound like, oh, I've got a pedal on. You know, where you get a great clean sound and you switch a pedal on and it does something, but you're like, I don't kind of like what it does with the mid range or the top end. This one is, if I play the difference, I mean, you'll hear there's a slight boost and there's a slight bit of drive, I suppose, but it's a very very subtle drive. So off would be, and on. So for me, it just does something to the harmonics. It just kind of makes it bloom a little bit more, you know. Where it's
I see what you mean though. It's almost like an always on. Just
so it's the only time I switch it off is when I put the fuzz on, because the fuzz doesn't seem to like it.
Okay.
You know.
Okay.
So it cleans up like if I didn't have the pedal on with the treble. Gets nice and. But it just adds a little bit of grit. And if I switch it off,
it's a little bit, just adding a little bit of fatness in there.
just a little bit of fatness and it's super subtle, and that's why I find it very difficult to switch off, just because what it does. Yeah.
So the other two Honeybee pedals you've got, are you using those much? Was it a Mystic?
Those aren't wired at the moment.
Oh, okay.
But the double treble is pretty much the one side of it is this clean drive, which is this very subtle kind of tone shaping drive, and the other side is called SRV land, which is kind of like a tube screamer, pretty much.
He's close to infringing on stereo. Double treble, SRV. What else have we got in there? We've got the Monterey side, and I've made that bit up.
But the double treble's great. The only reason it's not wired in at the moment is just I've literally got the pedal. And obviously real estate is...
for sure.
Yeah, I need to just kind of neaten everything up and find things.
And the Mystic's not plugged in either?
The Mystic's not plugged in, but the Mystic is an Octafuzz, pretty much.
Oh, cool.
And a really, really great Octafuzz.
Do all the lights... Is this...
All the lights come on.
I see, you've got all red LEDs around here. That's cool.
Pop that in for a second.
I just buy pedals because I like the way they light up.
Oh, we go.
That's not really true. Oh, yeah.
That's great, you know.
How pathetic is that? I just got excited about how a pedal lights up. So you've got one of Scott's fuzz pedals?
Yes, I do. It's
That's
great.
a Scott McKeown fuzz, which I've had sitting around here for about
I think it's somewhere in the back
2 years that I've still not plugged in, which I must at some point or other.
It's great. I mean, the big thing for a fuzz for me is obviously I like the germanium. Might be a little loud.
Can I turn your reverb down a smidge?
Yes, please.
Are you sure?
Please do. For me, it's, I like a fuzz that is unusable in the neck pickup, because then it means you get that massive, because I mean, if I turn my volume full on my neck pickup, it's... But the reason I like that is because with my treble bleed, you get this incredible kind of sparkly sound if you back your volume down. Which is very bright, obviously, it's very top end, but I just absolutely... Love it, man. It's just like a great vintage fuzz face style.
Yeah, I love listening to other players play fuzz, but I've never really kind of.
You're so right. It makes the guitar. When I first started playing fuzz, it makes the guitar feel different. The strings feel different. It's something. Yeah, it's a very weird thing of fuzz. Another beast, but it's great. Yeah.
So another pedal that has travelled like 5,000 miles to South Africa, 5,000 miles back to Guildford, and probably started about 3 miles away. Is the Dualist,
yes,
which I've seen on all the good players seem to have Dualist pedals, but I've never tried one. So what's going on here?
Well, I mean, this was another. I mean, I'm a big fan of Jesse Davey. You know, his guitar playing, his tone. I mean, good God, his tone is just silly. You know, and he makes this range of pedals. They're called King Tone. His company's called King Tone. Yeah, that's right. And he makes this Dualist, which is like kind of 2 overdrives. The right side, from the way I'm looking at it, is a tube screamer. I think it's based, if I'm not mistaken, it's based off Jesse's personal vintage 808. And wow, it's just...
so that's what does he call it?
He calls it the string singer
side.
And, it's got this cool thing over here, which is fat, stock, and gloss, which is a little kind of switch. And the way I understand it is that affects the tone going into the pedal, not coming out. Where the tone knob, that affects the top end going out, and the switch affects the top end going in. So if I switch on to the tube screamer side, if I go to fat, I think it boosts a lot of the bottom end. Stock would be, I suppose, like a classic tube screamer. And then glass gives you that once again
because you use the glass mode on
the
the
glass,
amp as
which
well,
is kind of just like a bright switch, I suppose, which gives you that. So I kind of like the glass setting. You know, I suppose it depends on the room you're in and all that. And the other side, I believe, is a blues breaker kind of circuit. But it's got like a little dip switch inside where you can add more gain. So I do that. And I kind of use this side. I mean, I haven't really set it up, but I kind of use this side as more of like a slightly more gainy kind of like riff kind of. So it can get quite a lot more gamey than the other side. So yeah, I kind of I really love. I mean, my favorite side is that string singer side. It's just wow, it just makes so much sense. It's like one of the best tube screamers I've heard.
That sounds wonderful. I said it was the last pedal on the board. Of course, it isn't, because the wah wah is the last pedal on the board.
Yeah.
And I mean, your playing style, and of course, all clearly your guitar heroes are all big wah wah guys.
Yeah,
so
certainly.
What have you chosen for here?
This is I think the company's called RMC. I think Real McCoy.
Real McCoy, yeah.
Yeah. And there's like a cool picture of the bloke on the on the bottom, like hair and everything. It's very, very, very cool. And this is called, I think it's the RMC 10, which is supposed to be, and I might be wrong, I think it's modeled off the Hendrix live wah-wah sound. I mean,
we used to stock these, and I'm trying to. I can only imagine we used to stock these, and from memory they were pretty expensive. I guess like a lot of boutique pedals are.
Yes.
And I don't know why we stopped stocking them. Maybe it's just one of those pedals that didn't sell enough, and so we just went, oh well, we'll move on. But I do remember him doing like there's an RMC like 6 and 8, 10, all the different numbers,
all modelled off certain different sounds.
What they were,
and what I like about
it's still going. So
it's great. I mean, I've had this on the board for a while, and what I like is it's kind of got that Vox kind of sound, which is it sweeps the high end rather than like I think sometimes. You know, the Crybaby kind of sound is more almost sometimes a lower frequency sweep.
Yeah.
And this is kind of more it's a noisy bugger, as you can hear, but it's got that kind of nice. I mean, it was kind of the right frequencies that I like to be kind of wired out, if that makes any sense. You know what I mean? Yeah.
I mean, it strikes me that again you'd be pretty happy with just 2 or 3 pedals on this board and into this amplifier, and that's most of your gig. It's like
big time. I mean, it's I've had far bigger boards, and it's kind of, you know, for what I do. You know, it's like I do a very particular thing, and I'm definitely not the most versatile guitar player in the world. You know, I play what I play, so I kind of can get away with having a fairly minimal board where I don't necessarily. If I ever play a gig that I need a delay or like a very high gain sound. I mean, I've never really been in that situation, so I can afford to kind of have a relatively simple board. Yeah.
Wow. It sounds great, and you know, whatever you've managed to put together, the licks, the guitar, the pedals, the amplifier, it's totally working.
Oh, thank you.
Sounds monstrous. So, well, look. Please, good luck on the tour.
Thank you very much.
Albums and future albums and wherever you go, and you know, hopefully you get to dive out to America and do some more stuff out there. But I'll put links in the description below where you can go find out about Dan. I don't know how much of the stuff that Dan's using we actually sell, but if we do, I'll put those in the thing below. Otherwise, you have to go and find it yourself. Google is your friend. But yeah, thanks, man. Take it easy.
Lee, thank you. It's been a great pleasure, my brother. Thank you very, very much.
Really cool.
Thank you.
Bye, guys. See you soon.